Good morning, and welcome to Housing, Land Use, and Environment Transportation Committee. Sorry, I just really wanted to gavel in. It is one of those mornings. And we're going to have a wonderful committee today. So I'm going to begin by asking our clerk to take roll.
Good morning, Vice Chairperson Semidian. Here. Chairperson Arenas.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Wonderful. So next on our agenda is public comment, and this is where anyone can share comments about anything that's not on today's agenda. So if you're in person and you'd like to share public comment, we ask you to submit a yellow card, or if you're online, please raise your virtual hand, and we'll start with in person.
We have no speakers in chambers, and I see no hands in the Zoom room.
All right. So moving on to item number 3, which is our consent calendar. I would like to, in our consent calendar are items 11 through 16, and I'd like to add item number 8. Vice Chair Semidian, do you have any changes?
No, Madam Chair, thank you. I'm happy to move approval of the consent calendar as contained in our published agenda with the addition of item number 8.
Thank you. Is that a motion?
That is.
Awesome, and I second that.
Vice Chairperson Semidian.
Aye.
Chairperson Arenas.
Aye.
Motion carries. And very briefly, I do not see any speaker cards or Zoom attendee or public comment in Zoom.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Okay, we're moving right along to item number 4, which is on our regular agenda, and it's items for discussion. It is to receive the biannual update to this committee on the Fire District employee demographics. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Arenas. With me today, I have Director of Personnel Services, Doug Baker. I'm the Fire Chief for Santa Clara County Central Fire Protection District, Swanakert-Gow. Also before you today is our biannual report in which we outline our current demographics as well as our recruitment and outreach efforts. Since the last update, we have had 10 outreach events. Those are, again, in the report before you, where it shows that we are outreaching to a multitude of venues in terms of putting out the word that being a firefighter is a viable career, and definitely having our folks on the line out there talking about the process as well as just the benefits of serving the public in this public servant role. With that said, if there's, I'll pause here and take any questions or comments.
Thank you so much. I would say not only just viable, but exciting, right? Awesome. So we are going to go first.
Madam Chair, on that item, if I may.
Yes, I was going to do public comment. Would you like for me to? I'm going to. Peggy, you tell us.
We have no speakers.
Vice Chair.
Forgive me, Madam Chair, I can't recall whether we've had this piece of the conversation before, but I did want to highlight this is an item that came to our board a while back as a result of civil grand jury commentary. It was initially placed on our full board's consent calendar with the necessary responses. I thought that it deserved a sort of a more careful look-see and some continuing attention. The item continues to come back to committee for that reason based on my motion at the time. I'll be vacating the premises some point at the end of this year, but I do hope that this item will continue to come to the committee and that we'll continue to exhort the department to see if it can do better. The bottom line, looking at the numbers, is that this has been a struggle, notwithstanding the efforts that are described in the report. So I just want to ask, encourage, exhort the department to stay on it, and I hope that the item will continue to come here not on consent, just as it is today, not on consent, so that we can highlight the need to expand the effort over time. Thank you.
Thank you, and I completely agree. I know there's some attrition and a lot of recruitment efforts. I would love to hear, really, maybe next report, some really exciting ways that you're recruiting folks, right? I think we just are devastated in terms of personnel all across the county. I mean, everybody's having a hard time recruiting, and so I think we just need to up our efforts in terms of how do we relay to our younger generations and those upcoming that this is, you know, public service obviously is important, but second, being a firefighter is something that is doable and is achievable. I think there's a lot of ideas out there that might be too difficult, just like in our police department, right? Can you pass the physical test? And so, anyways, I know that you're making those efforts. I know that you're reaching out, and I know that you're making some additional efforts that are gender-based to create some parity there. Last time that this came to this committee, I asked for us to, no, it was to the full board, excuse me. I asked the administration to incorporate the EMT and paramedic training programs in our EMT/RFP, RFPs, so as a pipeline to recruit female and other diverse populations. And so I'm wondering whether Chief or Sylvia, if either one of you have any information, any updates on that, and whether that has been explored.
Chair Arenas, if you're speaking to the county's RFP for the ambulance, I don't have any additional information for that.
Yeah.
If I may,
Please.
Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive. What I'll do is connect with my colleague who is responsible for that, and we'll provide you an update off agenda.
Thank you, thank you. I know that obviously, you know, you may not be participating in that way, but I think we need to take a look at all of our efforts across all different fields and figure out how can we create a pipeline, short of having this committee maybe visit high schools and things of that sort. You know, we just have to really increase those efforts, because it seems like with attrition and recruitment, we're always just going to be in the same place. We're jogging in place. And, you know, to no fault of yours, as I've seen that you're making your efforts, we just have to create something different. Otherwise, we're going to stay in the same place. Okay. Those are my comments. Can I get a motion?
Move that we receive the report.
Thank you. Second.
Vice Chairperson Simidian.
Aye.
Chairperson Arenas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for all your hard work. Next, we have item number 5. This is ordinance code amendments relating to residential tenant protections and relocation assistance. I'm going to turn it over to County Council.
Good morning, Chairperson Arenas and Vice Chairperson Simidian. Elizabeth Pianca, Assistant County Counsel. Item number 5 is a report from the Office of the County Counsel relating to recommendations to repeal and replace Division C5 of the County Code, which was last adopted in 1993, to expand just cause eviction protections and relocation assistance requirements for residential tenants in the unincorporated county, following recent state law changes providing for additional tenant protections. The proposed ordinance seeks to reduce housing insecurity, minimize unnecessary displacement of residential tenants, and promote access to stable housing in the unincorporated county in a manner that is equitable to tenants, landlords, and the community. The preparation of this ordinance has involved a team of attorneys within the County Council office, including Michael Rossi, Jamila Bacanto, and our presenters today, Erin Forbath, Rachel Neal, and Elizabeth Vissers. We've also worked with county offices and departments in the preparation of this ordinance, including the Office of Supportive Housing and the Department of Planning and Development. I will now turn it over to Erin, Rachel, and Elizabeth, who will provide an overview of the ordinance, and we are available to respond to any questions the committee may have. Thank you for the opportunity to propose this ordinance to Hewlett.
Thank you. Thank you. This is really exciting, and welcome.
Good morning. I'll start with a background on existing law. So currently, we have Division C5 of the county's ordinance code, which was passed in the 90s and imposes requirements related to evictions that are due to unsafe and hazardous conditions. And these requirements apply to all types of units in the unincorporated area. Specifically, when a tenant is evicted due to unsafe or hazardous conditions, the current Division C5 requires, among other things, that a property owner provide either substitute housing at no additional cost to the tenant or a relocation assistance payment equal to 3 months of fair market rent. This may come up when, for example, code enforcement placards a building as unsafe to occupy due to building code violations. And the county's experience with the existing Division C5 is that landlords have not always complied with the relocation assistance requirements, and the ordinance could use a more effective mechanism to track and ensure compliance. And in addition to our current county ordinance, the state passed a law called the California Tenant Protection Act in 2019. And that law provides limited protections for residential tenants statewide. And specifically, it provides 3 broad categories of protections. First is just cause eviction requirements. Second is relocation assistance requirements. And third is rent control or rent increase limits. And so just to provide a little bit more explanation for anyone who is unfamiliar, just cause eviction requirements essentially require that landlords provide a fair reason for evicting somebody, and the state law sets forth various reasons that would constitute just cause. There are 2 types of just cause. There's at-fault just cause and no-fault just cause. And those refer to whether the just cause or the reason for eviction is essentially the tenant's fault or not. So some examples of at-fault just cause that are considered to be the fault of the tenant are if the tenant fails to pay rent on time or creates a nuisance, violates the lease, or engages in unlawful conduct. And then on the flip side, no-fault just cause is where the tenant is not at fault, but maybe, for example, the owner decides they want to move into the rental unit or they'd like to withdraw the property from the rental market or substantially remodel it such that the tenant needs to be evicted. And so state law requires relocation assistance for all no-fault just cause evictions. And it also expressly authorizes cities and counties to adopt more protective regulations. Now, my colleagues Erin and Rachel will discuss the proposed ordinance in more detail. But just as a general overview, our proposed ordinance is intended to do 2 things. First, it carries forward and updates the requirements in existing Division C5 related to evictions based on unsafe and hazardous conditions, including adding improved mechanisms for tracking and ensuring compliance. And second, the proposed ordinance incorporates and builds on the just cause eviction requirements and relocation assistance requirements from the State Tenant Protection Act that went into effect in 2020. And the proposed ordinance does not in any way change the state law rent control or rent increase limit requirements. So next, I'd like to present just some background information that's intended to provide a general overview of the distribution and location of renter-occupied units in the unincorporated area. And just as a disclaimer, these numbers are from the American Community Survey, which is done by the U.S. Census Bureau and present estimates, but are not exact numbers. So this is just provided for general informational purposes. We have not independently verified these numbers. So looking at this table, it shows estimates related to the owner-occupied units and renter-occupied housing units in various communities within the unincorporated county. CDP, which is used in the left-hand column, stands for Census Designated Place, and is a term that's used by the Census Bureau for a closely settled unincorporated community that is locally recognized by an identified name. And one thing I'll note for the Stanford CDP is that the American Community Survey's definition of housing units does not include dormitories or residence halls, so the numbers shown for Stanford are units that are not dormitories or residence halls. Next slide, please. This next table, again, presents estimates from the American Community Survey, and it breaks out the renter-occupied housing units by type of units. So you can see that in the unincorporated area of the county, about half of the renter-occupied units are single-family residences. In Stanford, a very large percentage are multifamily buildings. So if we look at all of the unincorporated area, excluding Stanford, then over 70% of the estimated renter-occupied housing units in unincorporated area are single-family residences. And with that, I'll hand it off to Aaron.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. So I'll start to describe the operative provisions in the proposed ordinance and how we got to the draft that we're presenting today. And as Elizabeth Pianka said, the goal of the ordinance is to create permanent, equitable, just cause eviction protections in unincorporated county. And it is specifically designed to build on areas where jurisdictions across the state have added additional protections to address possible gaps in state law. So there are 4 categories of levers where we are proposing additional protections. The first is the categories of tenancies that are covered by the Tenant Protection Ordinance. The second is offering some clarifications to the type of just cause evictions that can be used by landlords. The third is to update the relocation assistance required under state law to match the amount of relocation assistance currently required under existing Division C5. And the fourth is to adopt compliance and enforcement mechanisms that are workable for the county and will ensure robust compliance in unincorporated county. And just briefly on that, the key specific element would be requiring landlords to provide the county with a copy of a notice of eviction that they serve on a tenant. Ultimately, the goal of the proposed ordinance is housing stability. And as we outlined in the legislative file, it's supposed to work hand in hand with the programs offered by the county, especially through the Office of Supportive Housing, to promote stability and prevent homelessness. The other important element that we want to emphasize here is that this would allow the unincorporated county's residents to receive similar protections to those provided in the city of San Jose, the city of Mountain View, and other neighboring cities. Finally, the goal of the ordinance was to come up with something that would be easy for landlords and tenants to understand and easy for the county to administer by mirroring state law's structure, but making very specific, precise additions where it was, where we thought it was appropriate to do so in line with the county's housing first policies. As Elizabeth Pianka mentioned, we worked closely with the Office of Supportive Housing and the Department of Planning and Development on the proposal in front of you today. So the next slides are going to show a comparison table of how the proposed ordinance differs from state law and how it compares to the 5 cities in the county that have adopted local tenant protection ordinances. And the first half of the table, which I'll start with, is just about the scope of the ordinance and the types of tenancies that are protected. And you'll see on this slide 3 columns. The first is a minimum occupation period. Like Mountain View and like San Francisco, Oakland, Marin County, and Los Angeles County, the proposed ordinance would not include a minimum occupation period for the protections to kick in. They would start at the beginning of the
Excuse me,
tenant.
Madam Chair, through the chair. I'm trying very hard to wait until the full presentation, but on this particular slide, let me just ask, you indicated earlier, excuse me, that the draft is designed to mirror the other jurisdictions. I'm looking up and down the columns, and already I can see that the draft county ordinance is different in many different ways from other jurisdictions. So could you speak to that as you go through this? Because there may very well be a good reason, but I've got a little bit of a disconnect between what I heard earlier and what I'm seeing right here. Okay.
Thank you, Vice
through the
Chair
chair.
Simitian. Absolutely, and we'll go through on this slide the ways in which it differs. And on the next slide, which addresses the substance of the protections, I think you'll see less differences with the cities between the proposed ordinance and the ordinance in front of you today. On the minimum occupation period, as you point out, this is different from both state law and the city of Sunnyvale, city of Milpitas, and city of Palo Alto, which include a minimum occupation period, but the city of Mountain View doesn't. And the policy rationale is that the goal of housing stability demands immediate protections during the first months of someone's tenancy, the same as in the 7th month of their tenancy or their 13th month of their tenancy. The third column, I think we also see congruence with the cities in the county and jurisdictions throughout the state. We're proposing not to include the carve-out that state law has for housing built within the last 15 years. San Jose, Palo Alto, and Sunnyvale do not include that carve-out. The city of Mountain View adopted their ordinance by voter initiative, and they do exclude housing built after that ordinance, but they don't adopt the statewide 15-year carve-out. And we also see other jurisdictions throughout the state, including recently built housing.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm looking at 3 columns, and I'm looking at the first one, minimum occupation period, 12 months, 7 days, none, 6 months, 12 months, 12 months, none in our case. And then I'm looking at the next one, carve out for single-family homes, townhomes, and condos. Yes, 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 but no for our approach. So I got 3 columns. 2 of them are very different. And again, there may be a policy justification that you can offer up, but I'm just asking that you not represent these as being similar to other jurisdictions or the state law, because by your own chart, they are not in 2 of the 3 cases, and it's not a close call. On the carve-outs, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses before we get to our no. On the minimum occupation period for tenant protections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 have some minimum occupation period before we get to our none. So again, if you got a policy rationale, excuse me, happy to hear it, happy to entertain it, but I just think it's inaccurate to suggest that these are in sync with other jurisdictions when rather clearly by the chart they are not. And it's going to open you and us to criticism if you present it that way.
Understood, Vice Chair. I think my intention earlier is of saying that other cities in the county have adopted local tenant protections, and that it would the unincorporated county taking steps to adopt local tenant protections would be similar to that. There are several issues to address in the local tenant protection, and as you point out, there are clear differences in what's in front of us today. But let me speak directly to the single-family homes. I think that's an important one. One point to make is that cities and counties throughout the state have been addressing this, and there are several jurisdictions that have made the decision to include single-family homes, including our sister county in LA. The Los Angeles County ordinance does not include a carve-out for single-family homes. Neither does the ordinance in San Francisco, Oakland, or the city of Los Angeles. And I think there are two pieces of background that the Office of the County Council is happy to provide to help this committee and ultimately the full board weigh this policy issue. One is about the data, the number of renters living in single-family homes in the unincorporated county, and the other is the law and the impact of including single-family homes and the limits of this ordinance when and if single-family homes are brought into the fold. So Elizabeth Vissers offered some of the data about the number of single-family homes that are rented out in unincorporated county. I think the crucial point is that in many of the most populous areas in unincorporated county, we're talking about about 90% of all the renters. So in Cambrian Park, East Foothills, San Martin, 90% of all rented units are single-family homes. And throughout the unincorporated county, at least half, based on this estimate, of all of the rented units are single-family homes. And in terms of the full unit mix of unincorporated county, we think it's about 70% are single-family homes. So we have a much higher number of tenants living in single-family homes and renting those single-family homes than other cities in the county. And then the other piece is the law. And I want to help frame this decision by just explaining a couple of points. The first is that the proposed carve-out or excluding this proposed carve-out doesn't change the other carve-outs that are in line with state law, and that includes a carve-out for units in an owner-occupied building, a duplex, a triplex, or an owner-occupied single-family home that's renting out an ADU or two ADUs in the back of their property. Those would not be subject to the ordinance. And the other point to make on the law is that the application of this tenant protection ordinance to single-family homes would not restrict that landlord from evicting someone in order to move back in order to move a family member back in, or in order to remove the property from the rental market. So the single-family homes would be covered by the ordinance, but the landlord would have the authority to remove them, to remove the tenant for one of the enumerated reasons.
Great. Erin, go ahead and continue with your presentation, and then it seems like maybe how long is your presentation? You're on slide 6.
I think we only have 2 more slides.
Perfect. And then we'll get full-fledged discussion mode. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pass it to Rachel Neal to talk about the other points, substantive points in the draft ordinance.
Thank you, and good morning, Chairperson and Vice Chairperson. So moving on to some additional elements of the proposed ordinance. The proposed ordinance would provide increased protection against eviction for allowing when the tenant moves certain family members in, specifically a dependent child, a foster child, a minor in the tenant's care, a spouse, domestic partner, or parent. The proposal would also increase protections for tenants who sublease in order to replace a roommate who's left, but only in circumstances where the landlord has unreasonably refused to allow a replacement for the departed roommate to join the lease. Mountain View has very similar protections in its ordinance, as does San Jose with respect to the family member protections. Turning to the next column, the proposed ordinance also would restrict the circumstances in which a landlord can evict a tenant in order to remodel to circumstances where they are performing substantial repairs, and would also require that the landlord acquire the permits for those repairs. This, again, is very similar to the requirements for San Jose and Mountain View. The proposed ordinance would extend the, provide for an extended notice period in circumstances where the landlord is evicting a tenant in order to remove the property from the rental market. And this is consistent with the Ellis Act. And it would specifically require the landlord to provide 120 days notice generally if their intent is to remove the rental property from the market, and 1 year in instances where the tenant is a senior or disabled as defined under state law. And similarly, San Jose and Mountain View have very similar provisions in their ordinances, and this, the time periods provided for here are consistent with the Ellis Act. And yes, so turning to the next item, the proposed ordinance would allow for owner move-in.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Will your question create a
No,
whole discussion?
my, it's not a question. Your name again, ma'am?
Rachel Neal.
Ms. Neal. This is the third column in a row where you've referenced San Jose and Mountain View, but not referenced the fact that it's different than, the proposal is different than 4 of the 6 slots that's there. And I would just ask you, and you can tell I'm getting increasingly frustrated on this point, and I'm looking at Ms. Pianca as the leader of the team here. If you're going to break new ground, good. If you're going to ask us to break new ground, good. But let's be straight up about what we're talking about, and not, when you talk to our board and you talk to this committee, and particularly coming from County Counsel's office, the expectation is that you'll give us the facts and you'll do it in a straightforward way that allows us to exercise judgment about policy. And when someone says, same as these 2 cities, same as these 2 cities, same as these 2 cities, it doesn't say, by the way, different than, and different than the other 4, I don't feel like I'm getting that sort of straightforward presentation. So I just want to tell you that. Just as I said earlier, and I apologize, I've forgotten your name, sir.
Aaron.
Aaron Forbath.
I just as I said earlier, you know, when you say that these are the same as the others, they're not. And thank you for the very helpful chart that indicates that they're not. But folks, this is a hard one. I've been through these debates before in my other venues, and I need the county council to be not simply an advocate for a new ordinance, but a straight up legal advisor who gives us clear information about what we're confronting. And I'm going to keep pressing on this point, Madam Chair, whether it's in this committee or with county council or in the full board, because this is going to be a hard one. I can see it coming. And the only way it's going to work is if everybody's included and if everybody's dealt with straight up. And right now, I don't feel like I'm getting a presentation that fits that description. There was reference to the fact that the extended notice was, I think, the same as the state act. Did I hear that right?
I said it was consistent with the Ellis Act.
It is consistent in the sense that it's compliant, yes?
Yeah, so there's the Ellis Act, the numbers, the 120-day notice and the 1-year notice are included in the Ellis Act as well. The Ellis Act, the exact circumstances in which it applies are a little different. So I don't want to suggest that they're like completely identical, but those are where those numbers are coming from.
Respectfully, I think that's what your earlier comment said, that it was consistent. I'm looking again at your very helpful chart, and under extended notice for Ellis Act evictions, California Tenant Protection Act, state law, none. And then down at the bottom, the county's ordinance, 120 days or 1 year for senior and disabled tenants. Again, there may be sound policy rationale, but where there are differences, look, this is a substantially more aggressive approach to tenant protection. Okay, say so. Be straight up with us about that. And if there's a policy rationale you want to offer, please do. But I feel a little bit like, in spite of my earlier exhortation, I'm not getting the straight ahead presentation that we're going to need to have this discussion with the larger community. I'm sorry for the interruption, Madam Chair, but
I appreciate your being so clear. So what I'll ask you, Vice Chair, is to let us know in your comments later how you would like this, what the difference in terms of presentation I think it would make, not only to you, but to the rest of the board, so that it is maybe more neutral in the information, and if it's not clear enough, that you provide that level of feedback. I want you to, Rachel, to finish your presentation. Obviously, you know, there is already a level of recommendation that you're hearing from Vice Chair Simidian, and I know you already have one more slide.
Yes.
And
Okay.
may I just jump in?
Please,
Thank you. And we appreciate the feedback. We do have one more slide, which we'll complete. And as you can imagine, the state law framework is complicated. The various local ordinances are complicated, and we've attempted to distill those down in the information we've provided you with today. And we recognize that there are differences between our ordinance and the state law, and differences between our ordinance and other tenant protection ordinances that have been both adopted within cities, within Santa Clara County, as well as elsewhere in the state. And the comments are noted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Turning to the next provision, the proposal would, allow, as does state law, owner move-in as a basis for just cause eviction. However, the proposed ordinance would limit the circumstances in which an owner could move in to owners that are natural persons and who own at least 50% stake in the property. As you can see in the chart, a number of jurisdictions have included the natural person requirement. And Mountain View has also included a 50% ownership stake. And mindful of Vice Chair Simidian's comments, it's true that in some instances, for example, in Palo Alto, it includes only the natural person requirement, but not the 50% stake. So there is a mix of approaches that jurisdictions have taken. Ours would be most closely aligned with the Mountain View ordinance. And then the final column simply notes jurisdictions that have included rent control ordinances that go beyond the rent control imposed by state law. As was mentioned earlier, the proposed ordinance that we're presenting about today does not propose any additional rent control beyond what state law provides for. And that brings us to our final slide, which provides just a brief comparison of the proposal with respect to the amount of relocation assistance. The proposed ordinance would provide for 3 months of fair market rent as rental assistance to qualifying tenants. Alternatively, a landlord could waive 3 months of actual rent in advance of that rent becoming due. But this chart focuses on the instance where they are making a relocation assistance payment. As my colleague mentioned, the 3 months fair market rent is the same as the current amount provided for under C5. And as you can see, the 3 months fair market rent would put us on somewhere, the best comparators essentially for that proposal are San Jose and Mountain View. As you can see, there are some jurisdictions that have adopted a lower proposals, 1 or 2 months, and County of Los Angeles, and in some instances, Palo Alto impose a higher amount. However, San Jose, as you can see, in some instances, they provide a little less, sometimes more, depending on the size of the unit. Mountain View provides 3-month fair market rent, however, with the caveat that it is limited to tenants that have a household income below 120% of the median. So that gives you a sense of, hopefully, where we would land compared to other jurisdictions. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to go to public comment first before we begin or continue our discussion. Peggy?
We have 3 speakers in chambers and presently 1 hand raised in the Zoom room. For the speakers in chambers, if you could approach the podium. Our first speaker is Anil Baber.
Good evening, Chair and Vice. Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair. I'm used to evening meetings. Anil Babar with the California Apartment Association, and I want to first of all start by thanking County Council for notifying us of this issue Monday of this week. We haven't had a chance to fully review the ordinance. Our legal counsel is reviewing it, but in the short time we have had it in our hands, we've noticed a number of operational challenges with the ordinance that may make it difficult to execute for property owners. Just briefly, the notice of termination. As members of CAA, we provide ready-made forms for each jurisdiction that allows them to quickly and stay in compliance with local laws. With the way the notice of terminations, for example, the exceeding amount of information that's being required would require almost an attorney to write each notice of termination. That's just one example of the concerns we've had. Had we seen this sooner, we could have brought this to the light of County Council and staff. However, we're still working through the details of the ordinance. But that all being said, this area to date and the rest of the state is being governed by AB 1482. AB 1482 provides a very solid and stable standard for the entire state. It provides predictability for both residents and property owners. And that's why we encourage the county to maintain consistency with AB 1482 and let that state law work its process rather than having another process that you have to enforce. And keep in mind, enforcement, while the staff report says it can require existing resources, enforcement over time will add money to the budget. We've seen that in San Jose. We've seen almost 100% increase in fees that are charged to property owners due to enforcement of their ordinance, and I'm sure you'll see that at some point here too. Thank you.
The next speaker is Enrique Navarro Donnellan. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Good morning, esteemed supervisors and committee. My name is Enrique Navarro Donnellan, and I'm the Government Affairs Associate here on behalf of the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. SCORE expresses concern and opposition to this proposal as it strikes against the heart of every homeowner's primary nest egg, their very own home. Especially in these challenging economic times, homes capture families' entire retirement plan. Mom and pop housing providers are the affordable housing foundation in this county, and this ordinance will destroy that foundation and leave those you plan to serve with even fewer affordable options. Unincorporated Santa Clara County does not have large investor housing complexes that are generally the target of these policies. Our mom and pop housing providers are all we have in unincorporated Santa Clara County. No time exemptions, co-tenant screening, regardless of what the lease says regarding occupancy. This will upend many existing agreements. This ordinance discourages investment with more rules and regulations and restrictions around how homeowners can run their own property. These are major problems hurting homeowners' rights with this proposal. What if a homeowner wants to remodel? Do they have to wait until the property deteriorates to the point of uninhabitability before they can fix their property? Do you intend to tell a homeowner that he can't remodel their own home to reduce blight in unincorporated areas and better house their tenants? What if they want to remodel to make ADA adjustments in advance of their plans to move into their own property. Under these rules, they will have to somehow move in first and then begin the process. And where was the stakeholder engagement in this whole process? Did your staff ever approach SCORE, California Apartment Association, Bay Area Homeowners Network, or any mom and pop housing providers? This whole proposal is an owner's policy that strips homeowners of their ability to manage their own home. And this report also doesn't share details on how it would definitively or measurably help anyone. It provides average rent data and the types of units that exist, but nothing beyond that. This process needs to stop, and we need to begin engaging the stakeholders. Thank you so much for your time.
The next speaker is Emily Ann Ramos.
Good morning, Supervisor Simidian and NRNS. My name is Emily Ann Ramos, and I'm here representing SB at Home, speaking in support of staff's work on the Tenant Protection Ordinance. This is an important anti-displacement policy that many cities in our county have adopted in some form. This proposed ordinance can also provide a model for cities who have plans to adopt this type of ordinance. We also recommend that the county adds the adoption and implementation of this program in their housing element so that you can get credit for your anti-displacement and firmly furthering fair housing work. When it comes to tenant protections, we know that no single policy will solve the housing crisis, but they build upon each other, especially with supportive housing services, to prevent displacement and create a system where people can feel secure in their homes. We hope that the county continues to explore more tenant protection policies. We applaud staff for their great work on this, and we look forward to supporting this ordinance and future anti-displacement work throughout the county. Thank you.
Our next speaker is virtual, Huáscar Castro. Please accept the unmute to begin speaking. And your mic should be open.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Arenas and Vice Chair Simidian. My name is Huáscar Castro, Working Partnerships USA, and we're proud to stand in support of the draft ordinance proposed to you today by the county. When we discuss housing solutions, we look at what's commonly referred to as the 3 Ps, production, preservation, and protection. Today is a critical part of that discussion and looking at how tenant protections can be implemented to stabilize communities, stabilize neighborhoods, and combat displacement. There's irrefutable evidence that shows that communities throughout the county, and unfortunately primarily communities of color, are specifically either enduring or at risk of enduring displacement or gentrification, and these are in pockets throughout the county. Currently, there are cities, as referenced in the staff report, that do have a form of tenant protections that go beyond state regulations, such as San Jose and Mountain View and Milpitas, and that does provide an extra level of stability in those communities. We are really hoping that there's an opportunity to provide that same level of stability and protection for tenants in unincorporated pockets and throughout the unincorporated county, and we recognize that you are all in a position to do so. We know that having just cause provisions are crucial in order to ensure that there is a fair process that outlines really clear directions on how and what are required of tenants in order to be within a building and give a justifiable reason if need to move out. And also having some sort of relocation efforts and creating a clear process behind that provides that clarity and opportunity to do so. We appreciate your opportunity to provide comment on this matter, and we look forward to further discussion and opportunities to provide protections and stability throughout our community. Thank you.
And that concludes speakers.
Thank you. I'll start with my vice chair.
I wonder if we could go back to the slides. Thank you again. They're very helpful. Could we go to the slide that indicates the number of units in different parts of the county, please? Forgive me, I don't have the page number. And if Mike Wasserman were here, he'd say thank you for the page numbers. I'm just trying to understand on the Stanford numbers, since this is within my district, percentage of renter occupied units that are in multifamily buildings, 92%. Percentage of renter occupied units that are in 2-unit buildings, none. Percentage of renter occupied units that are single-family residences, 8%. And this is in the Stanford CDP, the census designated place, which presumably means that some of these may not be Stanford lands, as in the 8,000 acres or 4,000 acres that are in our unincorporated county. They may be in the designated place, but not on Stanford lands per se.
Supervisor Simonian, I think that is correct. I don't think that the CDP is coterminous with the unincorporated Stanford lands. We would need to confirm that, but that is, the census tract designation may be broader than what the Stanford lands consists of for purposes of unincorporated county regulations.
And I'd be happy to send you a picture that shows how they are defining the extent of the CDP.
Thank you. Let me ask, has County Council had an opportunity to engage the folks at the university on this matter?
Supervisor Smitty, I may respond to that. We did notify the Intergovernmental Relations Department of the proposed, Kelly Klein, of the proposed ordinance earlier this week. We have not engaged in any dialogue with them regarding the proposed ordinance at this time, but we did notify them of today's Hewlett.
Ms. Bianca, and forgive me because I'm going to keep pressing on this, earlier this week would mean Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Monday.
Could I ask, what's the genesis of these proposed amendments? Meaning, was it a referral from our board, or was it initiated by County Council's office?
The proposed amendments have been initiated by County Council's office, and they're reflective of really grounded in two reasons. One is the update to state law, the adoption of the Tenant Protection Act that became effective in January of 2020. And then secondly, our current Division C5 provides tenant relocation assistance to tenants in unincorporated county who have been displaced as a result of unsafe or hazardous conditions. We currently interface with that ordinance in the code enforcement context, most often when our county building official red tags a residential structure. We've had a lot of challenges with enforcement, specifically payment of relocation payments to tenants. And so that was another prompt for this ordinance.
Forgive me, that was so tactful, I didn't quite get the point. If you could just say, we had a lot of problems with what?
With the current implementation of Division C5, specifically when the county red tags a building, tenants are relocated. Our Office of Supportive Housing will provide assistance to those tenants who are relocated, but under our current ordinance, the landlord who has kept the property in an unsafe condition is really on the hook for payment of the tenant relocation expenses. They don't always pay, and so we have pursued through code enforcement efforts the payment, but it's been a challenge. That's another reason for the consideration of proposed amendments.
Well, Ms. Bianca, I heard two reasons. One is the update to the law, which is now 4 years old, I believe.
That's correct.
So we've been working on this for 4 years, and I was just not aware of it, which is possible.
No, we have not been working on it for 4 years.
Let me ask how long County Council's office has been working on it.
I would say that we've been looking at this probably over the last 12 to 18 months.
And is it accurate that there wasn't outreach to either SCORE or the Apartment Association until earlier this week?
We have not engaged those organizations. My understanding is that we notified the Apartments Association and the Realtors Association of the Hewlett item last Friday.
Ms. Bianca, let me ask you a judgment question, not a legal question. Can you understand why I would be disappointed, surprised, that if we've been working on something 12 to 18 months that involves the real estate community, we don't engage the real estate community until less than a week before the item's going to be heard?
I understand that feedback, and we are certainly happy to engage in stakeholder outreach and return to Hewlett following that stakeholder outreach at the direction of the Hewlett.
What was the anticipated timeline absent such direction, if I may ask?
We would follow, the course of any other ordinance that comes to Hewlett for consideration and then moves on to the board. But we want to ensure that this ordinance reflects, all input from the landlords, tenants, and the community.
Does that mean that but for a request for additional engagement, this would ordinarily show up at our next board meeting on the 21st?
No, we would keep this in Hewlett until it's ready to be presented to the full Board of Supervisors.
All right, Madam Chair, I want to take a minute to sort of try and clarify why I'm poking and prodding this way, and also to make sure it's not misunderstood. And I'm looking at County Council staff because you're the ones that presented it. I'm disappointed in the performance of the council's office, straight up. When you bring us a proposal that is initiated by the office, there is an obligation as our legal counsel, our advisors, not as advocates for a policy position, which I don't begrudge the office, but I would like it clearly stated, and I would like a differentiation between policy advocacy coming out of the office and legal advice. And we're going to have to, as a board, sort through this, and I can't do that as an individual member of the board if I don't have legal advice that is wholly free of policy bias. And I'm not feeling like that's what we got today. So I just need to tell you I am disappointed as one member of your 5-member board that is the client of the County Council's office. To be working on something for 12 to 18 months and not engage with principal stakeholders who you have every reason to know are going to have an adverse point of view does not serve the board well, and it doesn't serve the residents of the county well, in my view. So what I'm going to ask today, Madam Chair, is that the item be continued until there is fulsome engagement. Now, fulsome engagement does not mean you agree with anything, but it means that there be more than a handful of days between the time we're expected to make judgments and the time you've given notice to interested stakeholders. Whether I agree with them or not, whether you agree with them or not, whether we think they're right, whether they're wrong, not the point. The point is 12 to 18 months worth of work, and it doesn't sound to me from your own description like they were engaged along the way. I'd be much more comfortable today and at some subsequent board meeting if the folks who are anywhere from adamantly opposed, with a little hyperbolic language I might add, to concerned, if they had been engaged 6 months ago, 12 months ago, and I could look you in the eye and you could say to me and to my board colleagues, we heard those concerns, complaints, we considered them in the fullness of time, we think they are not reasonable because 1, 2, 3, 4, but we're not in a position to do that today. And that was a wholly avoidable consequence. So I'm going to ask that the folks at SCORE and/or Silvar, which represents portions of the Silicon Valley that overlap with my district, as well as the folks at the Apartment Association, as well as the folks at Stanford who have, again, by your own very helpful chart, 2,700 renter-occupied housing units, which may or may not be entirely on the Stanford campus, I understand. But when you look at those numbers compared or contrasted with half a dozen different locations that are here, they're pretty big numbers. And that's a player that hasn't been present in the room or in the conversation as far as I can understand. And I would rather we hear from them before we take action than after we take action. Now, I want to just close, and ordinarily I wouldn't subject you to this, but given the fact that I felt the need to poke on these process issues, including the importance of getting a straight-up presentation that doesn't slant one way or the other along policy lines, and the engagement, I've been a renter. I've received eviction notices twice in my life. As a member of the California State Legislature, I actually carried a small tenant protection bill. And does anybody in the panel know how much notice is required to evict somebody in California? How many days?
3 days.
And then they get how much notice?
There's a 30 days, or 60 days, depending on how long they've lived in the unit.
And that 60-day notice is there because I voted for it as a member of the California State Senate. And I'm sharing that with you because it was a controversial vote and I caught hell from folks in the real estate community. But I cast it because I understood how important it was to provide that additional increment of protection, particularly to people of modest means who had little, if any, ability to relocate in 30 days in a difficult housing market. So please don't mistake my process concerns for an unwillingness to consider the various protections you've got. But I cannot do that if we don't have both the engagement that I've suggested and a clear, unbiased presentation. Now I'm going to look you, Ms. Pianka, and at your team of 3 here. As I look at these various provisions on the other pages of the chart, this would be the most robust tenant protections as compared or contrasted with any of the other jurisdictions in this county if we adopted all of the amendments. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes.
Then let me just respectfully suggest you say so and not hide from that. And I'm going to let it go there because I'm frustrated by this and I worry I'll be too pointed. But I hope I've made my concerns clear, and I hope that, last comment, Madam Chair, and then I'll let it go. I've been back on this board now for 11 plus years, 4 years way back in the day. So 15 years. When you come with groundbreaking work, don't jam the board. That would be my personal, individual exhortation to you all, particularly when it is initiated by the office or department. Don't jam the board. And so part of what you're hearing in my voice today is a disappointment and frustration and even a little bit of anger, quite frankly, that I feel like this was brought to us with little notice to affected parties, with the expectation that we would just pass it along to the board and that it would hustle through the process. And I don't like to get jammed like that. I don't think it's good public policy to jam board members on stuff like this. If you've got an important policy case to make it, bring people along and persuade them. That's what we all are asked to do on a daily basis in our work, and I would expect no less from the council's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I am conflicted with your message, Vice Chair, because we are the policymakers. We expect council or administration to bring us information. I agree, it should be in a neutral tone as much as it can be, and I'm really open to hearing that level of feedback in terms of redirecting council to either present the information in a way that is more neutral. But I certainly don't ask them, I'm not going to ask them, and I'm not going to support any direction to have them engage with stakeholders in a way that is our responsibility as policymakers. So either we ask them to bring us information neutral, and we engage the stakeholders in a way that we want the policy then to reflect or to provide the level of feedback or the type of feedback from whatever side of the aisle or whatever, both sides, usually most policymakers. I'm sure that you're a super experienced one. You meet with both sides, you figure out where you stand, and then your direction is based on that. I don't expect county council, and I'm not going to want to blend their role. I've seen it blend too much in DFCS in the point where they're making clinical decisions on behalf of our children and families. And so I'm trying to be very careful about giving them that role in this arena. Now, I do agree with you about having legal advice versus policy advice. They could bring us both sides in terms of a pros and con, but I still don't expect them to be the policymakers. And so we can't have it both ways. We either want them for their legal advice, and we take that advice and we build on it by having stakeholders contribute. And I'm going to ask that it is not just slanted to SCORE or to the realtors, because they're not the only voice in the room. There's another side to that. And so I would like to actually include administration in this work so that it's more expansive and it goes beyond what county council's responsibility is to us. I'm open to hearing a motion that provides neutral legal advice about what they're proposing, but the policy portion of it is left to us. And I'm also open to including administration's support in hearing from all different sides, whatever side we pick, whatever side you're on, excuse me, to hear some of those pros and cons about maybe the inadvertent consequences of what we're proposing. So I would like to hear a more open approach to what county council's role is, and you asked whether it was going to be policy advice or legal advice. I want to stick to legal advice. And I think that administration can bring in their policy advice by bringing those stakeholders and engaging them in the way that I think that you would like for them to be engaged. I'm open to that. I just don't want county council to be those policymakers. So I'm open to a motion that is more reflective of the role that county council should have.
Thank you. Let me see if I can ask a few more questions and make a comment before I offer a motion, and hopefully we can find a common path here. Let me ask the County Council's office, the entire team, who in the housing world or in the tenant protection world did you have an opportunity to talk with during this past 12 to 18 months? And please be exhaustive and complete in your answer.
Yes, Vice Chair. We worked extensively with the Office of Supportive Housing, Code Enforcement, and the Department of Planning and Development within the county. And we spoke to service providers that are under contract with the county to provide resources to people experiencing homelessness. So that includes Project Sentinel and the Law Foundation. They're the county's service providers as part of the Office of Supportive Housing's work. And we also spoke to practitioners that practice tenant protection law at Community Legal Services in East Palo Alto. And I believe we spoke at the direction of the chair to members of the two organizations who offered comments today, Working Partnerships and and Destination Home, Silicon Valley.
Can you see where I'm headed with my questions?
Yes, Vice Chair.
So you did do outreach with Destination Home, and you did do outreach with Working Partnership, and you did do outreach with CLESPA, and you did do outreach with the Law Foundation, and you did do outreach with Project Sentinel, but not with folks in the real estate world. Is that a fair characterization or summary?
Yes, I think that's fair, Vice Chair. Just to get the timeline clear, that the conversations with Working Partnerships and Destination Home were also in the last 10 days.
I think the questions and the answers speak for themselves, so I won't belabor that. I do think, Madam Chair, we will always be struggling with this issue of policy versus legal advice, because I take your point wholly that our board ultimately has to be making policy. But let me look again to Ms. Bianca and her team. This is not a simple legal technical fix you've brought us. This is an effort to provide a more robust set of tenant protections. Is that a fair summary again?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and since it was initiated by the County Council's office, not by virtue of a board referral, it's a policy proposal in the form of amendments to an existing ordinance. Fair enough. All I ask is for a little transparency about that as we go through the exercise. And then to the chair's point, each of us as elected officials will have to say, here's where I land on the policy issues, and here's where I land on sort of the efficacy of the legal tools that you bring us in the way of an ordinance or amendments to an ordinance to go forward. And Madam Chair, again, I'm out the door at the end of this year, but the board may at some point want to take up this conversation about where the lines are or should be in terms of policy. I'm not troubled by your policy initiatives. I just think it should be labeled clearly as such, and then, as I say, the board can make its own judgment. But I think, as I've expressed a couple of times today, when the two get conflated, that's a problem in terms of transparency and in terms of fulfilling the obligations to provide clear, unbiased legal guidance. And again, none of this has to do today, Madam Chair, with the merits of the various pieces of the proposal. It's just an effort to try and get the process squared away going forward. So the motion I'd like to offer, and see if it works for you so that we could speak as a one voice on process here, is to direct County Council's office to return at a subsequent meeting of this committee. And I would say, when's our August meeting, if I might ask? Does anybody know? Yeah, I fear I'm going to be unavailable that day. At our September meeting, after engaging a range of stakeholders, and I hope that that's sufficiently permissive, as to the practical implications of the various proposed amendments. And I am trying there, Madam Chair, to avoid policy. And I'm sure folks from all perspectives will have their own views about the fairness of a policy or the appropriateness of a policy, and certainly they can express that. And to your point, Madam Chair, they can express it, and I'm sure they will, to board members. But at a minimum, there are some practicability issues for all parties that need to be addressed.
Okay, if you can repeat that, I got returned to the committee in September meeting and have an engagement with, a comprehensive engagement with stakeholders, and I'm sorry, I didn't follow.
As to the practical implications of the proposed amendments, period. And I'll stop there rather than listen to my run-on sentence twice.
Okay, and I would say I hear your point. Let me back up a minute before I contribute to the motion. But I hear what you're saying, and thank you for outlining your concerns in terms of having this be one-sided in terms of feedback. I would like for the legal advice to be more neutral, and I'm open to having this be resubmitted in a more neutral fashion. I also think that we could engage administration so that they are the ones pulling in more of the stakeholders and having that, that engagement of the practical implications of the proposal. I'm leery about asking county council to take that role on.
I think we can get there, and there's an amendment to the motion that I'll offer in a moment if it works for you, Madam Chair. I'm not being flip, though, when I say I think that ship has sailed. I mean, the folks are here with what is clearly a policy proposal, and as I said earlier, I don't begrudge them that. I just want absolute transparency about articulating that. One way we might thread the needle, I think, might be to ask the administration through the Office of Supportive Housing and or other departments, I'm guessing planning's going to get into the act at some point here, and or through other departments, to prepare a presentation when the item comes back to committee addressing the policy choices that would be necessary. Peggy, this is for you. The policy choices that would be necessary, clerk's office is always exhorting me to make sure the record is clear, that the policy choices that are to be made and the pros and cons of those policy choices. And, those are, to your point, Madam Chair, those are judgment calls that we as elected officials have to make. And I think maybe having one way, sort of 12 to 18 months in, to have these conversations in their appropriate discrete ways, in the appropriate and discrete ways, is to pull administration in as you suggested. So I'm happy to add that as a request.
Perfect. I think that works for me. So it's asking administration through either OSH or planning to prepare a presentation that outlines the policy choices that that are available to us, and also outline the pros and cons of those choices. I like it. Thank you. Second.
And this work would come back at the September 19th Hewlett. Thank you for the clarification.
Ready for the vote? Yes. Vice Chairperson Semidian?
Aye.
Chairperson Arenas?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome.
Before we
Thank
move
you.
on, Madam Chair, can I offer one more observation?
Yes, sir.
I think the county counsel's office is one of the strongest offices and departments in this county. So before you walk away thinking that I think otherwise, I just want to get that on the record. Ms. Bianca, you were here the day I walked back into the building, I think, in January of 2013. Some of you, yes, some of you, no, I think. But please don't take this particular set of concerns as a broader critique of the office. I have worked with County Counsel's office very closely on some of the thorniest issues my office and I have had to deal with over the last 11 years, and I think they do great work. I think you do great work. So please don't misunderstand my earlier comments in that regard. Thank you.
You know, and I'll add to your comments. I think that, you know, myself coming in as a new member, Supervisor Semidian, I'm seeing some of the duality of the county council's role, and I know that this is a separate kind of policy discussion in terms of what that really is, and obviously you're seeing that in our discussions here. I think maybe there are some municipalities that are more neutral or try to be more neutral, or the roles have kind of blended over time. And I think it's always a really good practice to go back to fundamentals and to basics. And so I think this is also a lesson in that. So I appreciate the conversation. Obviously, I appreciate the support from County Counsel's office and your feedback, Supervisor Semidian, because as always, I learn something new. Thank you. All right, we are going to move into item 6. This, is it item 6? Yes, item 6. It feels like we should be further in there, but no, it is item 6. This is update on parkland acquisitions and equitable planning for trail connectivity. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Don Rocha, Director with Parks and Recreation. With me today is Interim Deputy Director Jeremy Farr, who will be presenting. This is a follow-up to our March presentation that we provided on acquisition.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Director Rocha. With the clerk, did they vote on the last item?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
This is a follow-up to our March, from our March presentation, more focused on the eastern foothills and the connections from the eastern foothills to South County. As you'll see on the maps that Jeremy will provide, we do have some significant gaps that still remain, and but I'll turn it over to Jeremy for presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair. Jeremy Farr, Acting Deputy Director for Planning, Development, and Land Stewardship of the Parks and Recreation Department. So today I'll provide a short presentation that summarizes the report that was provided, focusing on these 4 topics. The department's recent progress on key acquisitions, particularly in the eastern foothills of Santa Clara County. The gaps that still remain in some of these regional trails that will need to be addressed before we can do comprehensive public access planning. The criteria that the department applies to properties and other easement rights when looking to acquire property. And finally, the equitable engagement of the public during planning processes. So in the legislative file, as well as in March's Hewlett report, we identified several county parklands that were either recently acquired or have been acquired in the past that are still pending additional land rights before we could undergo a planning process. So for today's presentation, we'll just quickly cover the county's recent acquisition of a portion of Richmond Ranch. So the board recently approved the purchase of the approximate 1,400 acres, which is the northern half of Richmond Ranch. We actually closed escrow on April 30th, so that is now the county's property, which is great. So Richmond Ranch is a joint acquisition as part of our long-term partnership with the Santa Clara Valley Habitat Agency. The intention would be to enroll the entire Richmond Ranch into a conservation easement as part of the Habitat Plan Reserve System, with hopefully the county eventually taking over the management and ownership of the entire Richmond Ranch for the purposes of creating regional trail connectivity to complete the Bay Area Ridge Trail. You can see on the map in the white labels, those are acquisition gaps. So those are land rights, either through acquisition or easement, that the department or other partners do not have. So we would need to look at closing those gaps. And then the black label, although conceptual at this point, would be the development gap that we would need to undergo a public planning process, as well as acquisitions to determine exactly where from Richmond Ranch that the trail would go to connect to other publicly available open spaces. Taking a look at the larger view of the Eastern Foothills, again, noting that these are conceptual corridors, not the actual trail routes. This is primarily due to the uncertainty of acquisitions and not knowing exactly which property or easement would be available at the time. So same labeling system on this figure. The black labels identify a development gap. So those are parklands or public open space where either the county or the partners have identified some intention for public access. And the white labels are acquisition or land right gaps. So despite our progress over the years, and especially this year, we've had a number of acquisitions. There are still a number of gaps that we need to work towards completing. This network along the Eastern Foothills is part of our updated countywide trail map update, which will be coming later this year to this committee, with the intention that we're just trying to update our regional trail connections with the various public land ownership that's been acquired over the last 10 years. The second part of our report is focused on the equitable engagement as part of our acquisition and planning processes. The department always works with willing landowners and collaborates with other agencies to purchase property. So we are limited on what properties we can acquire. However, when we do acquire properties and we're looking at the evaluation during negotiations with sellers, we have a number of considerations. Primarily, we look at acquisitions that are the expansion of existing parks, but we also look at acquisitions along the countywide trail network that's identified in our countywide trail master plan. We also apply criteria that includes accessibility, equity, transportation, and population growth as part of that process. In terms of equity considerations for the countywide trail connectivity, equitable access is a key part of our mission and vision as the department. The countywide trail connectivity actually gives us the most opportunity to provide equitable access, primarily through the partnership with other cities and jurisdictions to provide those trails to underserved communities. The department has and will continue to provide support through grant applications or direct funding so that we can provide regional trails to under-resourced community and accomplish regional connectivity goals. I'd like to highlight that recently the board approved a resolution to provide the city of San Jose funding for a trail, the Five Wounds Trail, which is in an underserved community. So the department will continue to do that as part of its mission. Finally, once we have all of these properties and land rights in our possession, we will typically do a planning process that would establish regional trail connectivity between two publicly available locations, whether that's two county parks or a county park and another agency's property, so that we have logical starting and end points for people, and then we can plan for other amenities like parking lots and restrooms along that trail network. So during those planning processes, we are always striving to improve our processes on a regular basis. We've done public outreach since I've been here, so for the last 8 years, and for many years before that. We are always trying to make minor improvements so that we can improve our equitable outreach. Some of the things we're already doing is providing meetings in multiple language formats, providing more outreach via social media, Nextdoor, other outlets that reach others who aren't our park users, providing meetings in multiple formats, both virtual and in person, and finally, establishing relationships with organizations that represent the underserved community or those that don't get out in our parks on a regular basis. And at a larger scale, the department is undergoing a fundamental analysis of our equity components. So we are working on a diversity, equity, inclusion assessment report and an action plan to help guide the department moving forward, both internally within our operations as well as externally with the public. And then we are also undergoing an update to the Countywide Trails Master Plan map, which reflects many of the changes that the cities and other jurisdictions have put into their trail plans that are connected to under-resourced communities. And that concludes the presentation today, and Director Rocha and myself are available for any questions.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to public comment before we begin. Any questions?
And we have no speakers on the item.
All righty. Vice Chair? No. Okay. So I'm just going to start really with a few questions, and this has to do with your diversity equity initiative. How does that play a part with the equity and justice department or division or office of? How does one inform the other?
So I can answer that question. We work very closely with the Office of Diversity and Equity. We are constantly in communication with them. We're really trying to find an area and connections with communities that typically don't utilize our parks. So we've also engaged a consultant to help us do focus groups and engage the communities directly to really understand, how our park system can serve them. Mm-hmm. So we've been doing a lot more of those exercises and bringing in consultants to also help us get into the communities directly and ask those questions to the communities.
I appreciate it. I think most of the time it's just a matter of information. We just don't know what's in our own backyard because we don't step outside. We're always in the house, in the classroom, in the whatever it is, stores, and we're just not looking out. Yeah. So I look forward to seeing great, you have a consultant. I just know that, growing up in the East Side, you never really look up at the East Hills and appreciate that you're surrounded by all of this beauty because your environment is just creating different kinds of challenges for you on a day-to-day basis, right? And so you don't really have the time to do that. And so I look forward to seeing how we can address that. And obviously our district has the most county parks, and I'd love for people to come into South County and utilize it in a way that I think is fitting, but that has a lot to do with access, knowledge of, and creating the kind of access that will lend itself to those kinds of trips, and that can only include transportation, right? So anyways, I really appreciate your your presentation. I really like that map that outlined the gaps in terms of the trails. That was really helpful. I know my office is very much on top of this and is always advocating for our trails and our parks, and I'm grateful for this Richmond Ranch recent purchase. I'm wondering, how will the I know that the Habitat Agency just submitted a grant application for the California Coastal Conservancy. You all gave a letter of recommendation for the remainder purchase of. And with that purchase, what are some of the gaps that are going to be addressed? Are any of the ones that you outlined? Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, so that is I think that's part of filling the gap. There are still gaps to both the north and south of Richmond Ranch in particular, but I believe it's about 3,700 acres is a huge step towards closing that gap. We now have an actual program called our Countywide Trails Program, so we have a dedicated staff looking into filling these gaps. So we'll be doing some targeted outreach hopefully in the next year on various priorities for filling these gaps. So this could be one of them.
Is that a new position?
It's relatively new. I would say
Okay.
2020.
Yes.
I believe.
Oh, okay. So my office must know.
Oh, they
about-
do, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They do. Okay, we've been calling, I guess. All right. I appreciate it. It's not often that we talk about parks because there's so many safety net services that come in terms of priority when we're trying to support our community, but we can't forget the level of contribution that the outdoors can lend itself to our mental health and well-being, and really creating that connection back into public health. And so I look forward to seeing how the Diversity Equity Initiative is unfolding, and I also like to just remind you, make sure that you reconnect it back to our behavioral health departments and those efforts, and our intervention efforts with our youth. There's so much opportunity to really overlay our efforts within all of the different departments, and sometimes because we just want to be efficient, we work separately. So I'd just like to remind you and nudge you a little bit on that. All right. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and forgive me, this is a little far afield, but it's parks and it's equity and it's, and Mr. Rocha, I think you will recall when the pandemic arrived on the scene, Madam Chair, I picked up the phone and called the county executive and parks as well and said, hey, how about we stop charging fees as a way to encourage folks to get outdoors? And because it seemed likely and then was subsequently pretty clear that that was a safer environment for folks to recreate. And there, of course, are financial consequences, but I have long been, and when I say long, I mean like 25 years long, been concerned about the impact that fees has, because frankly, for some parts of the county, and I think typically our fees are parking related, yes?
Including special uses like campgrounds and things like that, yes.
And is it $5 that is the sort of the norm these days?
$6 now.
$6 now, inflation. And, at the risk of stating the obvious, for a lot of families, $6 is a nothing. And for a lot of families, $6 is a lot of money. And I actually raised this issue in connection with, and Mr. Rocha, this will make sense to you right away, Rancho San Antonio 25 years ago when we were struggling with it, because, Madam Chair, what we were able to do in a partnership with Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District was essentially let them sort of pick up the slack. And in that partnership, as I understand it, and I don't know if this is still the case all these years later, essentially there's no fee for parking there.
That is correct.
And I remember, and I can tease him because he's not here, Supervisor Bell was a little grumpy about that because he was going to have parks that were in his district and elsewhere in the county where the fee was applied, but not at that park. And I said, well, you know, it doesn't help anybody to impose a fee where we don't have to, so let's take the opportunity to make this good partnership work, even if it's not, you know, going to be applicable in other places. Where I am headed with this long recollection is, has there been any conversation, or there may be a program in the works now that I just don't know about, providing some kind of park access or, you know, even a one-day free parking pass to folks who are part of our safety net programs. So if you are in CalWorks, if you are in the SNAP program, do we take that opportunity to say this is a family that has already demonstrated need according to some criteria and provide even a one-day pass or two-day pass to try and give people that option to get out?
Yes, so we do work closely with Social Services Agency as part of those programs. We do provide a reduced cost annual pass of $25 that gives them access to our park system. It's an opt-in. We are looking at refining that program. We're in the process now of doing a fee study so we can reevaluate our fees and those types of programs and kind of build upon our DEI efforts in making parks available to folks. I'd also say that we've expanded our library program, so there's a free pass and a backpack with binoculars and field guides and others that people can go check out at the library and then have a free pass into the park. We also work very closely with Public Health Department as part of prescription of health program. We provide 6 free passes for people when they go in for treating, especially around at our Valley Health and around pediatrics and diabetes and others that people would, a prescription brought by a pediatric doctor is to go outside in the parks, and it will come with they can access the park 6 days for free to be able to continue be able to access the park. So we're looking at expanding all those programs and looking as part of our fee study.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if you'd be interested, if we could get, have we received an off agenda on this? We see a lot of stuff, and sometimes candidly it goes right by, so I just want to make sure I haven't missed something.
We can provide that.
Could I ask, understanding that, and I'll lean back here in a minute, could I ask if you could also articulate some options that might prompt board members or to just provide some simple, flat-out free passes? $25 for a year is a great bargain, but $25 up front for some households, that's a deterrent. And I'm thinking I don't think we'd quote lose money if we just handed out a couple of free passes to folks along the way, and we might actually, you know, help provide a response to some stressors that folks with modest means in particular struggle with. And it also might be a way to introduce them to our park system so that, you know, a third or fourth trip at $5 a pop seemed appealing.
Can I jump in on that? 'Cause
Yeah, I'm gonna-
I love that idea, and I don't know if, it sounds like, I mean, obviously this is already available, but I wonder if our district offices can receive a certain amount every year that we would distribute to our own communities, because we build those relationships with neighborhood associations and with schools and things of that sort. We don't necessarily cross paths with our safety net residents in a way. Well, we shouldn't really. That should be very exclusive separate paths. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for that. I really like that idea.
Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive. Let me respond. We will take this input and incorporate a response into something that I wanted to advise you is coming forward on June 10th. You may recall earlier in the year, the board approved the building department fee increases. During that discussion, There was a referral from the board to incorporate what was generally described as an equity component. We take that to mean a consideration of either fee reductions or waivers based on need. And so we've been engaging SSA and the health and hospital system to understand what are easily producible documents that demonstrate public aid, with the hope that it makes it easier for departments that issue fees to be able to make a determination that there is a basis for a waiver or fee reduction. We'll bring forward the master fee schedule that has approximately 1,200 fees. It only excludes VMC and VHP. And then we're going to have, so we'll have an administrative policy. And in essence, our position is full cost recovery to the extent possible, as the county exec has discussed in the past, in order to save discretionary general fund money for our critical safety net services. But that'll be mitigated by the ability, under certain limited circumstances, to give discretion to department heads the ability to waive or reduce fees. And so right now, a number of departments, including the planning department and the parks department, those directors do have some delegated authority set forth in ordinance code to allow them the discretion to waive or reduce, but there's not a lot of guardrails around that discretion. So we hope to be able to provide those guardrails so that not only provides them guidance, but also protection with respect to the limits of their discretion. So we're happy to incorporate all of that, and we're aiming for June 10th for this discussion.
Through the chair.
Please.
Pleased to hear it, and thank you, Mr. Rocha. Some of those programs I was aware of vaguely, some not at all, so thank you for that. I do think this is an area where we could provide some benefit without any direct cost implications to the county. I understand that if 1,000 more people go enjoy the park space, that there's 1,000 more people who are bringing wear and tear, and that ultimately that's a cost associated with it. I get that. But it's not a direct cost. And I think we could actually do quite a bit for quite a few folks. You know, 2 or 3 passes, day passes in my thinking, spread out over the course of a year over the entirety of our park system strikes me as pretty minimal impact, frankly, and yet, a real boon to a stressed out family that would enjoy that opportunity. Ms. Gallegos, to the report you're going to bring, I just want to ask, as an individual board member with an individual perspective on this, there is always this tension between trying to do more and making the system easy and making sure that people aren't ripping the system off. And at the state level, there were clearly some big, high-profile rip-offs that were there. That being said, I want to urge and exhort both you and Parks, keep it simple. If we're asking people to fill out a 5-page form to get a $5 free pass, that's not going to happen, and we're going to get in our own way, and I think that can be avoided. Of all the things that keep me up at night, and there are a lot given the nature of our work, worrying that somebody gets an extra day pass to one of our parks is not one of them. So I would just say, if you're asking one board member as you're dealing with, trying to find where 5 board members are, I for one would be comfortable where we just say, you know what, if somebody, I understand we got a gift of public funds issue and we got to respect that, but I think in a better world, that would be a world we don't yet live in, all of our parks would be free and it'd be easy access to them all. We're not there, so if we can get a little closer, that'd be swell.
Understood, and in fact, that will be a central feature of what we present, not only to make it easier for customers and visitors to be able to, as you say, qualify. And Mr. Rocha knows, as someone who regularly uses our county parks and submits an application for the annual fee, I give him lots of and regular feedback about how we can make this easier, including how we find things on our website. But I also want to make it easier for departments who have to administrate this as well. So absolutely, that'll be at the forefront.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Of course, and I still want to put my 2 cents in there, and I think there's just an opportunity for our district offices to work with Parks on this, because, like I said, obviously you work with the community, and so do we. We get these inventory items that represent underfunded agencies that are struggling, but also have a lot of heart and are serving our community in a very meaningful way, and to be able to just provide those passes through some of those partners and our relationships with neighborhood associations and some of the schools that just struggle, that we just know need a little bit more. I think if we can make it as easy as possible in terms of just being able to distribute a certain amount, and I think there's even a potential in order to really entice our parks in a way that I think make it really much more appealing, is you put a whole package together about, a sunscreen, a hat, the passes, I don't know, granola, like a whole basket kind of a outdoor trip for some of our families. And I look forward to seeing what, like I said, what your consultants have to say, but I think we have kind of some of the answers within our own experiences of what works for families. Obviously, we're part of the community here, and we know it the best. So anyways, thank you so much, Vice Chair, for that. And that was an off-agenda report, right? And we have, did we do a motion?
No motion yet.
Move to receive the report with the request for an off-agenda report as well.
Second?
Vice Chairperson Semidion.
Semidion, aye.
Chairperson Arenas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you, Dawn. We're moving on to item number 9. Is that right? Yes.
Supervisor, I believe we have also 7 and 7.
Oh, yes, that's a verbal report. Yes.
In the interest of time, I'll be very brief. Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive. I'll only offer 2 updates with respect to all of our work on ag worker housing. I wanted to let you know that the RFP for the permit process transformation has been issued on May 3rd. We expect proposals to be submitted by May 31st, and we're targeting an ultimate award of a contract to be considered at the August 13th board meeting. You'll also recall that in the recommended budget, we do have the ag worker housing permit ally position that was incorporated in the recommended budget, and also the reserve. And then lastly, with respect to the San Martin Highland Campus Facility Master Plan, FAF does have a consultant. They have a kickoff meeting scheduled on May 15th. Actually, the meeting has already occurred. The consultant will be visiting the site on May 20th. And I think overall, I want to indicate that there aren't any site limitations that would preclude us from citing ag worker housing at that particular campus. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Exciting. Thank you so much. And I ask if you, I'm sure folding in our office, and that way, we can provide any support and be there for any of those really important dates. I'd love it. It's exciting. Thank you. Okay, so with that, we are going to move on to item number 9.
Apologies for the interruption. Just to note that we have no speakers on that item.
Thank you so much, Peggy. And because that's a verbal report, we also don't need a motion. So we're going to move on to item number 9, which is our supportive housing dashboard and veterans report. I think it's still morning, right? Good morning. 2 minutes to go.
Good morning, KJ Kaminsky, Deputy Director for the Office of Supportive Housing. I have a few slides that I will pull up to share a few highlights this morning.
Thank you.
So first, I'm going to share a few updates towards our community plan to end homelessness, the goals in our community plan to end homelessness, and then I'll share a few highlights from our veterans report, which is the focus of this month's special report. We are 74% towards our goal to house 20,000 people by 2025. And the second chart here on the right shows our goals towards reducing our annual inflow. This is set on the baseline of 4,751 people experiencing homelessness for the first time in 2019. Over the last 12 months, that number was 4,310, so still below the baseline, but we are continuing to see that tick up a little bit year over year. It's a little bit higher this year than it was last year. This chart shows the monthly housing placements versus that homeless inflow. The inflow is the multicolored bars on the right, yellow, orange, and blue, and shows for those people entering homelessness for the first time or requesting assistance from our system for the first time. It just shows the level of need for those households, with blue being permanent supportive housing, orange rapid rehousing, and yellow minimal intervention. But I also note that the number of placements into permanent housing remains very high. Over the last 3 quarters, the last 9 months, 8 of those months we've housed collectively over 200 households per month. Next thing, I'm going to share a few highlights from our veterans programs, or our veterans efforts. Since 2015 which is when we launched the veterans campaign, we've housed 2,852 veterans as a community. This is really a reflection of dedicated resources to support veterans in our community at the federal, state, and local level. You can see the bar on the right shows the veterans that were housed by the program and the type of assistance they received. Over half of them received Veterans Administrative Supportive Housing, otherwise known as VASH. These are HUD-VASH vouchers, incredibly helpful in our efforts to end veterans' homelessness, and probably the most effective intervention because it is a permanent housing voucher. We also have COC vouchers that are dedicated to veterans. These are and veterans housed in general COC programs. These are also permanent vouchers. And then a series of other either shorter term or mid-term interventions, such as the Supportive Services for Veterans and Families, otherwise known as SSVF, which is a rapid rehousing program, as well as city and county and other rapid rehousing programs that are supporting veterans exit to permanent housing. When we look at the outcomes for the veterans housing programs, we see that vets have slightly higher exits to permanent housing. This is the chart on the left of the screen right now. You see rapid rehousing for veterans. It's 87% to exit to permanent housing. For transitional housing, 51%. This is higher than the system-wide average. However, when we look at returns to homelessness, we have veterans have slightly higher returns to homelessness. 22% overall of those veterans that are housed return to homelessness within 2 years. So we collectively are working on strategies to reduce those returns and place more people into permanent housing. This is probably my favorite chart that I get to show at these dashboard presentations. This is the same type of chart that I showed for the whole system earlier, just for veterans. And here you see the green bar, the placements, and reflects the placements into permanent housing is much higher than those who are requesting our assistance for the first time. So our placements here are outpacing those who are entering homelessness for the first time. This is reflective of those dedicated resources for veterans. We have a by name list for those who are, for those veterans who are experiencing homelessness and tracking that reduction. Right now, our veterans by name list is about 300. If this trend continues and we continue to reduce the number of people returning to homelessness, I think we can reach functional zero for veterans homelessness. The last couple of slides are just the demographics for those approximately 300 veterans that are still on the by name list and it's still experiencing homelessness. They tend to be older than the general homeless population. Almost 80% have a disabling condition, and they tend to be a much higher proportion are male when we look at veterans compared to the general homeless population. Slightly higher percentages identify as Black, African American, or African, as well as slightly higher American Indian, Alaska Native, and Indigenous when compared to the general general population experiencing homelessness. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy, public comment?
No speakers.
Wonderful. Vice Chair?
None.
None. Okay. The only question I have is, and congratulations, these numbers look absolutely fabulous. I think that there's obviously still a lot to do for our unhoused community, but our veterans are getting the level of support that they've always merited. And you did notice this on your PowerPoint that the veterans overall return to homelessness is at 22%. And I just was curious if you can tell us a little bit more about that, if you have a perspective about it or what you found.
Thank you for the question, Chairperson Arenas. Just for clarification, is the question why veterans return to homelessness is slightly higher than the general population?
Right.
I don't have an exact answer for that. The next slide are the characteristics that show that many veterans have disabling conditions could be a factor. If disabling conditions are at a higher rate, they may experience more barriers to housing and to remaining housed. But the difference is not tremendously significant, so we would have to really look at, I think, a lot of factors to be able to answer that with certainty.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to figure out what that is, because that effort to get folks into permanent housing or that setting, I'm sure is tremendous in order to protect that investment and success rate, really, for those veterans. It would be interesting to figure out what element is creating that obstacle for them. That would be just my question. And obviously, everybody's different. You noted that there's some maybe physical or mental roadblocks for folks, and we just don't know what that is. But if we understood it a little bit more and created those connections, we're not going to solve for everything, but it's I think, for me, it's interesting to figure out what that would be. Okay. That's really my only question, and would love to have a motion.
Move approval.
And I second that.
Vice Chairperson Simidian.
Aye.
Chairperson Arenas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome. Now we're going to move. Thank you so much for the presentation. Have a wonderful day. We're going to move into department activity reports, and we're going to start with Jacqueline Anciano.
Thank you, Supervisor Arenas, Supervisor Simidian, Jacqueline Anciano, Director of Planning and Development. Just want to speak to 5 very brief items. We are working diligently with HCD to get our housing element certified. That's one of our priorities. And so we meet with them. Now it's every 3 weeks where we're working with their staff. And I'm always optimistic. And so we're working diligently there. We are working on recruitment. We are still at a 15% vacancy rate, and we are working as fiercely as we can to recruit permanent staff and qualified permanent staff. And then we are addressing an issue that was raised by D5, one of their constituents. Yesterday at the board workshop, Supervisor Schmidt, you asked for some information at the next Hewlett. And I thought I'd just give you a brief update. And if it's the desire of the Hewlett Committee that we come and make a presentation, we'll be happy to do that. But we did deliver a draft of the information we plan to put up on our website. As I stated yesterday, in June is our target for putting the information up and making it available to the public. So you have a draft on the dais of that information that we plan to put on our website. And then we have been working to secure a consultant to assist us with our code enforcement backlog. And so we've been working, our deputy director, Michael Alvarez, and our building official has been working to secure a consultant to help us with our code enforcement backlog. And then finally, just want to speak to the accessory dwelling units. We have been working to have accessory dwelling units on our website, some form of a plan, 2 different types to address housing. And so we've been working on that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We are now going to move on to Harry Freitas with Roads and Airports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Harry Freitas, Director of the Roads and Airports Department. I'll keep it brief in the interest of time. 2 things in our continuing efforts to invest in resiliency of county infrastructure. On 6/4 at the board meeting, we hope to present project bids to award another in a series of battery backup systems for the county expressway traffic signal systems. These have proved to be very valuable in light of the say the unreliability of the electrical power system under heat and various PG&E public safety shutdowns. Also, we will be planning on to report bids for the 3rd bridge in the Uvis Valley. 2 are under construction right now, and the 3rd one, which we'll be presenting to the board for award. That really strengthens the resilience of that road that connects the Almaden Valley to Watsonville Road. It's an important arterial. And then finally, I just wanted to report that the East Ridge Light Rail, also known as the EBRC, the East Ridge to Bart Regional Connector, has commenced construction in the median of Capitol Expressway. This week, by the end of this week, 2 lanes will be removed from Capitol Expressway between Tully Road and Quimby, one in the northbound direction, one in the southbound direction. Those will be permanent reductions to that road. ETA has been working very closely with county roads and with the city of San Jose on notifications to the public, including in the corridor. There'll be diversions of trips, increases in traffic. We expect that to happen. And we have a pretty robust public outreach team from the VTA, and we're prepared for hearing from the public on those items. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Don.
Thank you. Don Rocha, Director of Parks and Recreation. With summer around the corner and school's almost out, the weekend activity has already started picking up in the park system. Reservations are filling up at our campgrounds on the weekends, as well as day use and reservable picnic sites. We had 6 park rangers successfully complete their Park Ranger Academy. They start their 14-week field training program this week. Our maintenance staff are continuing their preparation for fire protection going into the summer season, working on defensible space along the roads, trails, buildings, and other facilities, as well as around our day-use picnic sites and campgrounds. Our tree safety program as well is winding down, so inspections have been done and treatments of areas where people concentrate. Those trees have been treated ahead of the busy season. We're in the process of launching a Transit and Parks website. in partnership with VTA and others to try to provide where transit options are for not only the county park system, but city park systems and others, so that people can reach their parks in a different way through transit. We have a number of events that are happening and activities that are happening to highlight our Hike the 100 is still a challenge, is still happening. June 1st, we at Anderson Lake County Park will be hosting a Coyote Creek Habitat Day in partnership with the Wildlife Education and Rehabilitation Center, as well as Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful. Provides people an opportunity to meet to be able to see wild animals with the WRC, the Education and Wildlife Center, as well as some hand-on activities to become wildlife detectives, as well as other hand-on educational opportunities. Activities also include walks, bicycle rides, and nature exploration. June 15th at Marshall Cottle Park, we'll be hosting the 3rd annual Native Plant and Pollinator Day to celebrate National Pollinator Week. With guided walks, activities, and community exhibits. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. That sounds like a lot of fun. I hope to drop by. All right, Edgar Nolasco for SEPA.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Supervisors Meeting, Edgar Nolasco, SEPA Director. I have a short brief today. For animal services, we are about to start our kitten season. Our kitten season usually runs from June to July to slows down about in October. We have a 40% increase in our cat and kitten intake, and thank you to Supervisor Chavez for highlighting us that increase the amount of foster folks that we're receiving as a shelter in the anticipation of kitten season. Also, June 1st is the California Adopt a Pet Day, which is to promote folks to not shop but to adopt, and the San Francisco SPCA will reimburse shelters for waiving fees to promote folks to adopt pets. And in vector control, thank you to Supervisor Smidian. We implemented the suggestions from the Health and Hospital Committee, and happy to report that by those measures, we were able to increase our VCD notification subscribers by 54%. So it was a huge success. And that is the end of my report.
Vice Chair.
Thank you.
And lastly, Consuelo.
I will move. Good morning or afternoon. Consuelo Hernandez, Director, Office of Supportive Housing. A few highlights. On May 8th, we held a grand opening for the Kiefer Senior Apartments in the city of Santa Clara. The development includes 80 units for seniors, and 46 of them are for formerly homeless individuals or older adults. And Chairperson Arenas, you previously asked us to think differently about the way we talk about our work and how we share stories of the people that we serve. And our office has been working with the Office of Communications and Public Affairs to publish stories. So we worked with them, and they published a story about the Kiefer Senior Apartments, and they told the story of one of the tenants and her journey through our county, being served through safe parking, Supervisor Samidian in Mountain View. And it was really beautiful, actually, to see the police officer who she built a relationship with actually attend the event, and she spoke. And so anyways, there's a story about it that the Office of Communications and Public Affairs published. So we're trying. And also, another bit of good news, we have our Hawthorne Senior Apartments, which is a development that the Housing Authority has put forward. Yesterday, they received an allocation of 9% tax credits. If you recall, this is where 17 of our developments are basically stuck, not being able to get an award of tax credits. And so the Housing Authority was successful yesterday with that allocation, which means later this year we'll have another groundbreaking. We also will be sending a request to the board offices for some assistance. We are opening our first ag worker housing development in Morgan Hill in the next couple of months. It's a 73-unit development, the Royal Oak Village. 30 of the units are for ag workers, and our developer is struggling to identify eligible ag workers. So we will be sending flyers and would appreciate any assistance in getting the word out. We have our colleague Rebecca Garcia and a few others in South County who are doing they're driving around door to door in areas that we don't typically frequent. We're just seeking some assistance to make sure that those 30 units go used for the ag workers. And then working with Director Nolasco and his staff on the Ag Worker Housing and County Resources Fair next month. During the pandemic, our office worked with Morgan Hill, Gilroy, the Office of Immigrant Relations, and we held a series of workshops or talleres on Zoom and in person to help people understand how to connect to affordable housing. And so we want to share all of that. We also had a resource fair, included different departments from the county, including the Behavioral Health Services Department, SSA, and all the smaller offices. So there's so many great county programs that we invited them to the resource fair. So we're sharing that with Edgar and his team to make sure they can leverage those relationships. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm happy to have my office connect with you regarding not only supporting any resource fairs, but in using our voice to pull in any partners, as well as to identify some of those farm worker housing potential recipients. Happy to do all that work. Thank you so much for all that you're doing and for telling the stories, which I think, sometimes we forget that there's so much good things that are happening within our county programs. And those are the kinds of stories that are going to make a difference when there is a development in somebody's own backyard and somebody says, yes, right? Because they understand what those stories look like. And actually would love to share with you, there is a recipient for, it's need, but needing like a pizza dough need a program, culinary program with Rebecca's Children's Services. And there's a young gal who, a 16-year-old, who just told a beautiful story about her own family's obstacles with housing and how she was part of a safe parking program. But before that, she was also participating in, when I was a council member, she was participating we had put together a youth community center inside Eastridge Mall because there isn't a community center for that neighborhood. And so kids could come into the community center. It was the community room inside Eastridge, and she and her brother relied on that to have a place to be and to do their homework and to engage all of those enrichment activities, and before they actually went to their safe parking program. And this young woman is absolutely extraordinary in terms of what she's gone through and just the level of maturity she has. But she also had because this is all a very thankless job, so it really stands out when somebody comes and says thank you. And so she and her brother came to an event and actually thanked us for having that community center at that point, for the work that we're all doing. But obviously it's not us, it's all of you and your respective teams that are doing all the really good work. So thank you. Our folks in our community are really receiving a lot of that support, and we can tell. And I'd love to see if at one point or another we can also engage her, because her voice as a young person, a 16-year-old, is so impactful. And it provides a different perspective, and I think that is also part of the stories that we want to share, so that the rest of the community can also buy into a lot of the work that we're doing when it comes and impacts their respective neighborhoods. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And with that, I don't
Apologies before you adjourn. Peggy.
I'm sorry. Oh, my voice forgot.
Before you adjourn, just a note that we have no speakers on item number 10.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you, and we will see you next month. We are adjourned. What thing? Absolutely not. I will catch this typo.